Chengfeng Su was utterly panicked, but he still had to clean himself up and escape. Zhiyu and her mother were confused about where they were, but it was clear that their benefactor had saved them both. This chapter is getting more intense. Loyal viewers, please follow along carefully, thank you.
Chapter 2513. Chengfeng at the moment has completely lost his position. It is precisely because of this that his thinking began to diverge, and even a little jumped off. In the dark, he felt that the master behind this incident was probably the super master who saved Zhifei and Zhiyu in Japan. But the housekeeper felt a bit whimsical. He said euphemistically, "Master, the master that the eldest lady met in Japan has not confirmed his identity until now. We don't even know whether he is a Chinese or a Chinese living in Japan. Moreover, Kyoto and Aurous Hill are separated by thousands of kilometers. In the vast crowd, how can the two people overlap each other so coincidence? Although this possibility exists, the probability is really too low." Chengfeng shook his head and said seriously, "The basis for my judgment is not probability, but feeling." After all, Chengfeng analyzed, in Aurous Hill, a mysterious person gave me a feeling of power and strength. I have only experienced this feeling before. And the last time I felt this way was after hearing about the deeds of that super master in Japan. That guy can easily kill a number of top Japanese ninjas in close hand-to-hand combat without being injured. I have never heard of such a master in so many years. Although I have heard of a lot of duels between Chinese and Japanese masters, and most of them were won by Chinese masters, but to be honest, I have never heard of a Sino-Japanese master showdown. Victory without injury. Even if Bruce Lee competes with a Western master, it is impossible to guarantee that he will win unscathed. Once the opponent can be unharmed, it proves that his strength is geometrically ahead of the opponent. In other words, this mysterious person can be unscathed with one enemy and 7. Then, it is not a problem to be afraid of one enemy. Even if the number of opponents doubles, maybe he can still pay a certain price to win. One person killed 14 top ninjas. How many people do you think there are in the world? The butler suddenly fell into thought. After a long time, he nodded seriously and said, "Master, you are right, he can kill 7 Japanese ninjas unharmed, so his upper limit is far from 7. If you count this way, this human strength is simply unheard of." Chengfeng continued, "And this time, Aurous Hill's behind-the-scenes man can not only easily capture Stuart and his 4 people, but also quietly take Shoude away under the eyes of more than 20 masters in the Su family. This strength, it's also unheard of. So, Aurous Hill, the man behind the scenes, feels like that Japanese mysterious master. 2 mysterious people whose identities I don't know can bring me the same feeling, which makes me have to connect the two together." Speaking of this, Chengfeng said firmly, "Moreover, the connection between these 2 mysterious people not only feels the same, but the important thing is that there is a clue that completely overlaps." The butler hurriedly asked, "Master, what is the clue?" Chengfeng spit out 3 words coldly, "Know the fish." The butler looked terrified and blurted out, "You mean, the mysterious master saved the eldest lady last time in Japan, this time in Aurous Hill, or did he save the eldest lady?" "Yes." Chengfeng nodded and blurted out, "I feel that way now. I always feel that Zhiyu is not dead. If she is really alive, then the person who saved her must have been saved in Japan. Her mysterious person once." The butler asked a little puzzled, "Master, if the man behind Aurous Hill this time is really the mysterious man in Japan, then I can understand that he saves the eldest young lady. What is his intention to kidnap the second son?" Chengfeng said, "Knock Shoude, there is a high probability that he wants to avenge Zhiyu and her mother. After all, Shoude went to Aurous Hill to deal with this incident on behalf of the Su family. It is naturally the easiest thing to have him operated on." The butler hesitated. Why is that mysterious person so good to miss? Not only did he save her twice, but also went to help her out. Chengfeng said sadly, "I can't tell you this. If my speculation is true, then this time he really took a stinky move." As he said, Chengfeng sighed and said to himself, "I knew that this mysterious master was affectionate and righteous to Zhiyu. I would not attack Liona. After all, she is Zhiyu's mother. She gets killed, and Zhiyu is alive, she won't forgive me in this life." In an instant, Chengfeng's expression became extremely annoyed. and he said in pain, if my speculation is correct, then this mysterious person originally had the opportunity to be available to my Su family. How could it have grown to where it is today? The butler hurriedly asked, Master, if this is the case, is there still room for recovery? Recover it. Chengfeng wrinkled his old face into a ball, and said angrily, how can I recover it now? I expelled her father and killed her mother. What's more nonsense is Shoude and the damn steward, they also buckled Zhiyu's black pot on my head. How could Zhiyu forgive me? She didn't want my life, I burned the incense. The butler thought for a while, and hurriedly said, Master, I have an idea, I don't know if it is feasible. Chengfeng hurriedly said, say it. The housekeeper whispered, in my opinion, it's better to let the eldest son come back now. On the one hand, you have to apologize to him and explain that you started with Liona to protect the family's reputation. As for the eldest lady, this is simply someone who wants to plant the blame. Here you are. On the other hand, if you ask him to come back and continue to sit where he was before, it is tantamount to taking a step back and showing him good. Chengfeng's expression immediately became very strange. The butler continued at this time, Master, if your speculation is correct, if the eldest lady is still alive, then her mother must be alive too. You expelled the eldest son to Australia before, and today you expelled the eldest son's family. This is almost tantamount to offending all the 4 members of that branch of the family. As he said, he remembered something, and hurriedly added, oh, yes, and Ruoli. If Ruoli is still missing, if this mysterious person is really in Aurous Hill, then I guess Ruoli might return alive, maybe even by his side. So it seems, Master, what you offended is their family of 5. So, the most important thing for you now, sir, is to quickly break one by one and try to save yourself. As long as there is someone in the family of 4 and someone speaks for you, you will have a chance to break the game instead of being at a dead end. Chengfeng was silent for a long time. He understands what this steward means. He knew that he had really offended his eldest son Zinn's family too hard. If Zinn is recalled, and confess to him, and reinstate his heir position, then this matter might be reversed. At this moment, Zinn was talking on the phone with his son Jufe. Jufe drove from Eastcliff to Aurous Hill late at night, but as soon as he arrived, he immediately fell into a predicament at a loss. He came to Aurous Hill to find the whereabouts of his mother and sister. However, the Aurous Hill police sent thousands of people to search the city for a whole day without any results. Zhifei alone did not know where to proceed or even start. He originally planned to go back to Du's old house in Aurous Hill first and ask the old housekeeper for help. In that case, he still has a place to stay. However, when he thought that he had just offended his grandfather, and his grandfather has let people look for his whereabouts, he suddenly felt a little worried. Therefore, he called Zinn, who was far away in Australia, for help, and said to him, Dad, Grandpa knows that Grandpa has an old house in Aurous Hill. Maybe he has already sent someone there to wait for me to pass. If I go to the old butler for help, I might be caught by the Su family before I get in. Zinn said solemnly, there is indeed this risk. I think you should be more cautious, don't contact the old housekeeper yet. Jufe hurriedly asked, Dad, what should I do now? As he said, he couldn't help feeling a little agitated. He choked and said, Dad, I don't know what to do now, Mom and Zhiyu are missing. I want to find them, but I don't have the ability to find them at all, and I don't even have a helper by my side. I feel like a complete trash. Zinn sighed and said with relief, My boy, don't blame yourself too much. This kind of thing is far beyond the scope of your control. I would say something bad, even your grandpa can't grasp the whole thing, how about you? Jufe cried and said, I don't want to care about him. I just want to find Mom and Zhiyu as soon as possible, and they must be safe, otherwise, I will never forgive that old thing in my life. After that, Jufe hurriedly said, Dad. Come back and help me out, Dad. You are not here, I am too limited alone. Zinn hesitated for a moment and then said, My boy, you should find a place to stay in Aurous Hill first, but don't expose your whereabouts to the outside. I will wait for your grandpa's movement to see which flag he is going to take next. Quote. In fact, for Zinn, although he had seen the news reports and the video uploaded by Charlie, he hated Chengfeng, but he still didn't dare to turn his face with the old man directly. The reason why he didn't dare to turn his face was also very simple. It was a complete lack of ability on his side. This is just like when Emperor Guangxu faced the Empress Dowager Cixi. The entire Zhongshan community, military, and political power were in the hands of the Empress Dowager Cixi. Although Emperor Guangxu was the emperor, he was not her opponent at all. What's more, Zinn doesn't even have the position of the head of the Su family, and Chengfeng is the real decision-maker here. Moreover, modern society is very different from feudal society. Feudal society can seek to usurp the throne, but in modern society, everyone pays attention to the legal system. Almost all the assets of the Su group are in the name of the father. Even if other shareholders hold the shares of the Su group, the shares correspond to the vote. The right is completely handed over to the old man. It is impossible to seize the power of the old man. Even if the old man is killed, the shares in the old man's name will be linked to the major trust funds. The rest of the Su family can only take some living expenses from the trust funds on a regular basis. Taking control of the Su family will be a dream. Therefore, even if Zinn knew that the old man was going to kill his wife, he would also kill his other daughter. By the way, he would not have the guts to go back and find the old man desperately. Because as long as he dared to leave Australia without the permission of his father, he might be put under house arrest directly. Because of this, although he was very worried about Zhiyu's safety, he still did not dare to leave Australia for half a step until the father spoke. He even dared not call to question the old man, because once he angered the old man, his fate would only become worse on the existing basis. Zhifei is young and has never really experienced anything. The biggest and most serious thing he has experienced in his life was when he was kidnapped in Japan. In fact, when he was kidnapped, he had already panicked. The whole process was like a quail half dead in fright. He was far less calm than his sister Zhiyu, so all the pressure at the moment was concentrated on his own shoulders, and he couldn't breathe. He desperately longed for his father to come back and be his backbone, but unfortunately, he dared to disobey the old man, but his father did not dare. Hearing that his father said he was waiting, Zhifei couldn't control his emotions and shouted, "Wait for more. What are you waiting for? You are waiting until the news of the death of Mom and Zhiyu will be announced. Will you be back for the funeral afterward?" Zinn felt that every word his son said was like a resounding slap in the face, slamming on his cheek, making him feel that his heart was bleeding. However, he had no choice at this time. He has experienced far more things than Zhifei. He knows what is meant by the courage not to be a man, and he knows what is meant by planning and then acting. He felt that those who knew that the opponent had a gun and rushed up with bare hands were all brave men, yet stupid. Such people are mostly cannon fodder for others. How can they have the opportunity to become a famous player on the battlefield? The son angered the old man. In his opinion, he was already stupid. If he disobeys the old man's intentions at this time and runs back to the country during this sensitive period, he will definitely touch the old man's inverse scales. Once the old man thinks he is rebellious, then it is impossible for him to have a chance to get up again in his life. Therefore, he could only patiently explain, "Zhifei, you asked me to go back and help you, but you know that with your grandfather's character, if I go back now, you may not see my face at all. I will lose my freedom. It's even possible that you will never have the chance to see me again in your life." As he said, he hesitated for a few seconds and said seriously, "Zhifei, you listened to your dad once. It is too late today. You settle down in Aurous Hill first. Tomorrow, while ensuring your safety, you will contact your grandpa and let your grandpa tell your uncle, and your uncle will send someone to help you find the whereabouts of your mother and your sister. You give me 1 day. If your grandfather doesn't contact me during this day, then I will ask him. In any case, I will let him approve of me to return home." Zhifei wanted to scold his mother angrily. However, after calming down, he also understood that what Dad said was not without reason. On the contrary, Dad was deliberate, but he was a bit too impulsive. Thinking of this, he whispered, "Dad, I know, you don't have to worry about me. I will call Grandpa in a while, and I will communicate with you again if something happens." Zinn gave a hum, and said, "Don't call your grandfather tonight. I guess he should be planning how to find your mother and your sister now. Don't disturb him. Talk about it tomorrow." As he was talking, his mobile phone suddenly popped up a reminder that another call came in, and he exclaimed, "Your grandpa is calling me." After receiving a call from Chengfeng, Zinn felt that it was both reasonable and outside. He reassures his son a few words quickly, ends the phone call, turns on Chengfeng's call, and can't wait to figure out his intentions. As soon as the phone was connected, Zinn said nervously, "Dad, why are you calling me so late?" Chengfeng sighed on the other side of the phone and said, "Hey, Zinn, Dad called to apologize to you." As he said, he asked, "You have already watched the videos circulating on the internet?" Zinn said truthfully, "Yes, Dad, I did see it." As soon as his words fell, Zinn quickly added, "Dad, I know you must have some opinions on Liona, but I believe you will not have any bad intentions towards Zhiyu. Stewart and Shoude must be coerced by others, so they are talking nonsense in the video and splashing dirty water on you." Zinn's words instantly moved Chengfeng's heart deeply. He really didn't expect that his eldest son, at this time, could be so rational and objective, and he even broke the truth of what he wanted to speak out most in his heart. "The truth of this matter is, Fu King really never thought of killing my own granddaughter. I only wanted to kill Liona. However, along with Stewart and my own son, both convicted me of the crime in the video, and dumped all the black pots and unnecessary charges on me alone, and was seen by more than 1 billion people across the country. My mother can't argue with them. Human emotions are so subtle. Even if you are quite prejudiced against a person when you are not understood by anyone and only this person can understand you, your attitude towards him will definitely undergo a 180-degree change. Because he is your only soulmate." Chengfeng felt this way at this time. Unexpectedly, it was impossible to understand that his eldest son would break the secret in a word, which not only moved him but also made him a little surprised. Zinn's words are actually intentional. He actually hated Chengfeng very much in his heart, because even if Ziyu's troubles were not caused by the old man, Ruoli always has no quibble. Moreover, Zinn himself was buckled in a shish tea basin and was thrown into Australia, which was also done by the old man himself. In this case, Zinn's hatred for him would not diminish at all. But he still cleverly concealed all the negative emotions, and from the very beginning expressed a complete understanding of the old man, and this time he won the deep heart of the old man. The old man sighed and said, "Zinn, you know me. Zhiyu is my favorite granddaughter. How could I be cruel to her?" The outsiders are really confused. They just listen to the villain's framing. As he said, he hurriedly said again, "By the way, there are so many major incidents happening at home now one after another. You can't stay alone in Australia and enjoy good fortune. Come back and help Dad tide over the difficulties." When Zinn heard what the old man said, his expression was even more ugly than eating shish tea. The old man does have a set. Obviously he sent me to Australia, and then put me under house arrest in disguise, and now he needs me to go back to help. He even said that I am now in Australia to enjoy the good fortune, and I have the FC King blessing in this shabby place, me. Even though he thought so, Zinn immediately followed the old man's words and said, "Dad, I'm so sorry, I really have been spared during this time. If you need me to come back and help, then I will be at your disposal at any time." Zinn wanted to go back, but he couldn't immediately say that, so he said, "If you need me, then I will set out." Even if the old man said it for this purpose, he must put the initiative in the old man's hands, and finally say one more sentence, always waiting for the old man's dispatch. In this way, on the one hand, it appears that he has absolute respect for the old man, and on the other hand, he appears humble in front of the old man. In this way, it can also reduce the old man's defensive heart for himself. Hearing this, the old man felt refreshed, and hurriedly said, "Well, let me get the plane ready for the Australian side, so you can get back as soon as possible." After speaking, he added, "By the way, I plan to leave Eastcliff as soon as possible and go to Suhong to hide from the limelight. Otherwise, the police and Du's family will probably come to the door before dawn. It will definitely be big trouble." Zinn hurriedly asked, "Dad, why are you going to leave Eastcliff?" Chengfeng said, "I plan to go to Suzhou. There are some of our properties in a large manor. I want to go there first and be quiet. Besides, it is also closer to Aurous Hill, so it is more convenient for me to take command." Zinn asked, "Dad, should I go to Eastcliff or reach Suhong?" "Fly to I can get to Suzhou in about 3 hours. You will fly directly to Suzhou. I will wait for you there. Okay. Zinn said immediately, then I will prepare. Chengfeng opened the mouth and said, Zinn, there are some things that trouble Dad. You must not blame me, especially Leona's affairs. Dad is also helpless to consider the reputation of the Su family. Quote. Zinn said without hesitation, don't worry, Dad, I understand you 100% on this point. As he said, he couldn't help sighing, and then said, you tell me, Leona, this woman, has never forgotten Changying in her heart for so many years. She and I have not divorced yet, so she ran to Aurous Hill to buy Changying's house. When it gets smaller, it's hitting my Zinn's face, when it's bigger, it hits the face of the entire Su family. Even if you don't want to solve this trouble, once I come back, I won't let her go. After hearing this, Chengfeng said with great satisfaction, Zinn, you can have this knowledge. I am very pleased that you are the son of Su's family. In the face of big things, you can see more clearly than ordinary people. Speaking of this, he continued, it's getting late, you should hurry up and prepare, let's talk about specific things when you come back. Okay. Zinn said respectfully, Dad, you rush on the road overnight, pay more attention to your body. Okay, I see. Chengfeng replied, remembering something, and then said, by the way, when the video came out, Zhifei came to me and made a fuss, and then I didn't know where he has gone. He contacts you, and you remember to apologize for me. As a grandfather, my temper is really hot, so please don't take it to your heart. Zinn really did not expect that the old man would take the initiative to apologize to his son, and hurriedly said, Dad, knowing that he just called me again. The biggest problem with this child is that he is not mature enough, and he has not encountered things in life as of yet. The information from the outside world is so obsessing that he can't see the essence of the matter. Don't share your knowledge with him. After I come back, I must bring him to you in Kowtow. Chengfeng was very satisfied with Zinn's remarks, and said, if this is the case, then I can rest assured, you hurry back, I will wait for you in Suhong. One thing that Elder Su is better than Zinn is that he used clues to construct a general framework in his brain, and in this framework, he calculated the existence of Charlie, a mysterious person. In fact, Chengfeng has always been a very shrewd old fox, and there are almost no loopholes in many of his plans, but only a few times because he could not foresee a variable like Charlie, so he missed a little bit and went wrong. This time, he speculated that Zhiyu was not dead, and speculated that she must be rescued by an expert, so he decided to try his best to restore Zinn's family and its faith in him. The first breakthrough point was naturally Zinn, the head of the family. The call just now not only calmed Zinn but also expressed his apologies to Jufe in front of Zinn. If the father and son believe his words, he would gain the confidence of at least half of the family of 4. Although it is impossible for Zinn to forgive Chengfeng so easily, at this moment. His heart is indeed relieved a bit because of Father Su's initiative to admit his mistake just now. After all, Chengfeng never bowed his head to admit his mistakes in his entire life, and suddenly apologized in person, which really surprised him. Moreover, Chengfeng couldn't count the existence of the mysterious factor Charlie, so he didn't know the real motive of the old man's softness. In addition, he himself was sent to Australia. Even if the old man did something sorry for him, there was no need to bow his head to him. Even the old man could completely put him under house arrest. This is also the old man's consistent behavior style. But the old man didn't choose this method. Instead, he actively bowed his head to admit his mistake and begged for forgiveness. This made Zinn feel that the old man might really have realized that he had the idea of reforming and making up for himself. The old man is willing to make up for him and agree to let him return to China, which is equivalent to preparing to restore his heir status. No one would have trouble with the trillions of fortunes, so in addition to surprise, Zinn's heart also had an uncontrollable excitement. However, on the one hand, there was the grief and worry of the unidentified life and death of his own daughter. These completely different moods mixed together, which made Zinn a little ashamed. The reason why he was ashamed was also that he found that he couldn't stop the excitement in his heart under such circumstances. This also made him thoroughly understand the truth. Why was there a series of battles for the throne and power between the flesh and blood of the closest relatives in ancient times? The history of elder brother killing younger brother killing elder brother, father killing son killing father, etc. is not uncommon. The reason is that the benefits placed in front of them are so great that they can leave their blood and affection behind. At the expense of one's loved ones, if only 100 can be exchanged, not many people in this world will agree. However, if you sacrifice your loved ones, what if you can get back 10 billion, or even 1 trillion? I am afraid that many people will be completely confused by this huge benefit. Zinn is also a mortal, and he also has 7 emotions and 6 desires. After being sent to Australia, he felt the loss of power, and this sense of loss made him unforgettable. Now that he finally saw the opportunity to turn against the wind, how could he not be excited deep in his heart? So he called Zhifei and told him briefly about the situation, and then told him, "Zhifei, I think your grandpa really realized his mistake this time, so you shouldn't be here either. This will resist him too much, you know." Zhifei said angrily, "Dad, we are unclear about the life or death of Mom and Zhiyu at his hands. Tell me not to resist him too much. Didn't you watch the video circulating on the internet? Mom and Zhiyu were in that car, what has become of it?" "Stupid," Zinn angrily shouted, "it has happened. What can you and your grandfather try to save? Not only can nothing be saved, but you will also be gone forever. You know, I am the eldest grandson of the Su family, and you are the eldest son of the Su family. Your grandfather will live for more than 10 years at most. At that time, if I cannot be the head of the Su family, I will have to go away. If your second uncle, your third uncle, or your fourth uncle took the seat of the head of the house, would it make our family feel better? I ask you, do you know how your grandfather's brothers ended up after your grandfather becomes the owner of the house? These uncles of mine didn't have a chance to live in China. The day they failed to seize a position was the beginning of their family's departure overseas." Speaking of this, Zinn said emotionally, "Those who have failed to seize the princes, leave China and go overseas, and can get less than 1% of the assets of the family. The most unlucky one can't even get even that 1%. Here, do you want to wait 10 years to be kicked out of China, lose all the positions, funds, and assets given to you by the family, and bring your family several hundred million in assets to live overseas?" Zhifei fell into silence. As the saying goes, it is easy to change from frugality to luxury, and it is difficult to change from luxury to frugality. Now he doesn't care about money at all. He has private jets when he goes out, and in the world's eyes, he has his own business. He can do whatever he wants. But once the father has said that he fails to seize his position and is sent overseas, he will lose everything instantly. Better private jet costs hundreds of millions. If he really is deprived of all assets and leave only a few hundred million in for his family, what will he live on? Zinn also knew very well that his words had touched his son's heart, so he was very wise to choose enough to stop instead of rushing for success. So he opened his mouth and said, "Okay, I'll tell you this much first. Your grandfather asked me to go to Suzhou to meet him. You will find a place to stay in the city tonight and drive to Suzhou tomorrow morning. I will be able to arrive almost by tomorrow afternoon. When you come to the airport to see me, let's meet your grandpa together." Zhifei was silent for a moment, no longer showing his rebellion and confrontation, and whispered, "I know Dad, after you take off, send me a WeChat, and I will find time to pick you up. Well, be careful and take care of yourself." This night, the reality is extremely calm, but the online world continues to boil. The attacks and abuses against Chengfeng have intensified. What he did has even begun to be reported by overseas media. And he himself is quietly hiding in Suhong overnight. Zinn boarded the private plane of the Su family and departed from Australia for a direct flight to Suzhou. As for Zhifei, for the sake of caution, he did not go to seek refuge with anyone known to the family, nor did he go to the hotel. Instead, he lay in his limousine with the heater on all night. This night, the 3 generations of the Su family, all had no sleep. In sharp contrast to them, Liona and Zhiyu, mother and daughter, lay on the extremely comfortable bed in the hotel and slept peacefully all night. At 8 o'clock in the morning, Zhiyu was the first to wake up and opened her eyes slightly. What jumped into Zhiyu's eyes was a luxurious suite in a hotel, and she was lying on a comfortable bed with a width of more than 2 meters. At this moment, she thought she was the soul after death. So she immediately wanted to find her mother's whereabouts, and when she looked around, she found that her mother was lying beside her. At this time, she also ignored the dream and reality, and couldn't wait to reach out, shook her mother's body, and shouted, "Mom! Mom, wake up!" Liona, who was still sleeping, woke up faintly. After she recovered, she looked at Zhiyu in front of her and exclaimed, "Zhiyu, are you okay?" Zhiyu hurriedly said, "Mom, I don't know if I have anything." Liona looked around and asked subconsciously, "Aren't we, in the tunnel?" "How come?" Zhiyu also shook her head subconsciously, "I don't know what's going on, it seems like this is a hotel." With that, Zhiyu suddenly thought of Charlie's face. Suddenly it occurred to her that before she fell into a coma, what appeared in front of her was the benefactor that she was thinking about and trying her best to find him. So she understood one thing and exclaimed, "Mom! The benefactor must have saved us." "The benefactor?" Liona asked subconsciously, "You mean, the benefactor who saved you in Japan?" "That's right. It's him." Zhiyu was so excited that her voice was trembling, and her tears were completely uncontrollable, and her cheeks were completely choked. Now, the consciousness has also reached the edge of fragmentation, and then she saw a benefactor. Liona couldn't help asking, could it be the hallucinations caused by unconsciousness at that time? Isn't that person in Japan? How could he appear in Aurous Hill? Zhiyu unswervingly said, "Mom. It's him, it's really him. I will never remember it wrong." With that said, she hurriedly checked her body. Soon, she discovered that her body, which had been severely injured in the car accident, was now unscathed, and she said excitedly, "Mom. My benefactor must have rescued us from the tunnel. There are also our injuries, they are gone now, he must have cured it." Only then did Liona realize that her body does not feel any abnormality at all at this time. You know, before that, she and her daughter faced a man-made car accident in the tunnel and suffered huge injuries. She couldn't help exclaiming in her heart, in such a serious car accident, it is almost impossible for anyone to survive. However, you and I are unharmed now, this is incredible. So she hurriedly asked, "Zhiyu, why did your benefactor come to save us?" "I don't know either." Zhiyu shook her head blankly, and said, "I have searched him for a long time, but have not found him. This is the second time I have seen him." As she said, she couldn't help sighing, "Mom, my dear father, he saved me again, and not only did he save me, he also saved you, and count it down, mother and brother, 3 I owe my benefactor 4 lives." Immediately afterward, Zhiyu couldn't help complaining, "Mom. The feng shui master that grandpa looked for is just nonsense. He told me not to look for my benefactor and said that my lifestyle recoiled. There will be a catastrophe, but he must not have thought that it was the benefactor who rescued me again. I said at the time that his calculations were not credible, and you scolded me." Liona immediately stopped and said, "Zhiyu. Don't talk nonsense. How do you know that Master Lai is inaccurate? Master Lai has long said that if you were not looking for him, if you were obedient and went back to Eastcliff, naturally you would not encounter such a big thing." Zhiyu was not convinced, and blurted out, "Then if I go back, Mom, your safety would not be guaranteed. If I was not here, my benefactor won't show up, then Mom, you are more fortunate." Liona sighed, and said, "Hey, this is the world's cause and effect. Master Lai only calculated the connection between you and him. I didn't know how to get in touch with your benefactor through you. Even though I was saved by your benefactor." Speaking of this, she couldn't help but sigh, "This benefactor is really a noble person in our family. I don't know if I can find him and thank him in person." Zhiyu came back to her senses, and said with excitement, "The hotel we are staying in must have been arranged by my benefactor. I will go to the service staff and ask." After speaking, she hurriedly got up from the bed, rushed out of the bedroom in 2 steps, and went straight to the door of the executive suite. As soon as she pushed the door open, she saw 4 strong young women outside the door completely blocking the way. She hurriedly asked, "Hello, where am I?" One of the women said, "Hello, Miss Su, you are in the hotel arranged by our young master for you and Ms. Liona." Zhiyu asked in surprise, "Then, who is your young master?" The woman shook her head, and said, "I'm sorry Miss Su, the identity of our young master is highly confidential, and we must never disclose it to the outside world." Zhiyu was not reconciled, and asked, "Can you take me to see him? I want to thank him in person." "I'm sorry." The woman continued to shake her head and said apologetically, our young master has ordered that if you and Miss Leona wake up, you should have a good rest in the room. You can tell us any time you need anything, but you can't leave the room. Ah. Zhiyu couldn't help asking, I don't know what your young master's intention is for this arrangement is. The woman explained, that's right, our master told me that your grandpa is deliberately trying to kill your mother, and your own safety is not guaranteed. So he needs you and Ms. Leona to stay in the hotel room temporarily and not go out. Zhiyu feels a little lost, but when she thinks that her benefactor is doing it for the safety of herself and her mother, she nodded and said helplessly, well then, please help me thank you, young master. After speaking, she hurriedly asked, I have another question. Miss Su, please speak. Zhiyu asked expectantly, will your young master come here? I want to see him. I don't know if there is such an honor. The woman smiled slightly. Miss Su, I can't answer you exactly about this. Master didn't tell me if he will come. Zhiyu felt even more disappointed. Unexpectedly, she was rescued by the benefactor again and even got into a high-end hotel by benefactor, but she still couldn't see him. At this time, she couldn't help asking, then, do you know where my phone is? If you know, can you return it to me? The woman said, I'm sorry, Miss Su, our master has ordered that you and Ms. Leona cannot contact anyone outside for the time being, because now many people are looking for your whereabouts. Once they know that you are still alive, I am afraid they will not rest until you are not good. I hope you can understand. Zhiyu didn't expect that not only did the benefactor not show up, he even refused to let her communicate with the outside world, and her mood suddenly became even more disappointed. She asked tentatively, will you let me report peace to my family? My grandfather must be very worried about the safety of my mother and me. Just report to him and let him know that we are all right. The woman shook her head and said seriously, sorry Miss Su, our young master's order is not to let you contact anyone outside, no matter who the other party is. Although Zhiyu was a little bit uncomprehending in her heart, she nodded gently and thought, benefactor arranged like this, although it looks like he put my mother under house arrest, I believe he must have his reason, and it must be in good faith. So she said, I understand, thank you. The woman hurriedly said, Ms. Su is polite. You and Ms. Leona can tell us any needs, including what you want to eat and drink, what to wear, and you can tell me. Arrangements will be in place. Okay. Zhiyu bowed slightly and said gratefully, thank you. After speaking, she realized that her stomach was indeed a little hungry, and he said, can you help me prepare some breakfast for my mother? The woman said without hesitation, of course, Miss Su, what would you like to eat? Zhiyu hurriedly said, it's all right, as long as it is lighter. Okay. The woman said, Miss Su, please go back to the room and rest for a while. I will tell the kitchen to prepare. Thank you. Zhiyu thanked, and then returned to the room. When she returned to the room, Leona also walked out of the room. Seeing that her expression was a little lost, she hurriedly asked, Zhiyu, how is it? Zhiyu said helplessly, there were 4 female bodyguards at the door. They refused to let me go out. They said that it was the kindness of the young master who told us to let us stay here. There are many people outside now looking for our whereabouts. For the sake of safety, the benefactor will not let us have any contact with the outside world. I originally wanted to report peace to the foreign official, but they didn't allow it. Leona nodded slightly and said seriously, this is understandable. Your grandfather wants my life, and some people want your life. I don't know how complicated the situation is. If you let the outside world know that we two are still alive, I am afraid that it will really bring a lot of danger, and it will also cause a lot of trouble to your benefactor. Zhiyu asked, Mom, the female bodyguard at the door said, it is the young master, then who do you think is the young master? Is there any great family in Aurous Hill? Aurous Hill. Leona frowned for a moment and said seriously, I don't really understand the situation in Aurous Hill. I know that there is a Song family with assets in the early hundreds of billions. This benefactor is extraordinary in strength and definitely not Song. A family of this size can be nurtured. In other words, if the Song family can cultivate such extraordinary talents, the strength of the Song family will never be the scale it is today. Zhiyu asked again, could it be a hidden family? Hidden family. Leona thought for a while and said seriously, I can't say this, but to be honest, Aurous Hill's economic situation is not among the top 10 in China. In such a city, it is difficult to have a strong hidden family. After all, the water must be deep enough to be able to hide the giant. Zhiyu nodded in agreement and muttered to herself, this is. After that, she had an idea, and then said, Mom, then, do you think the benefactor is the young master of a big family in Eastcliff or other first-tier cities? First-tier cities. Liona was silent for a moment, and said, there are only a few of the top domestic families. As far as I know, none of these families have very powerful young masters, just like the Su family, including your brother. Among the male descendants of the new generation, who can be considered a master? Other families are even more unlikely. Chapter 2524. Zhiyu couldn't help sighing. She also felt that what her mother said was right. The elder sons of these top families may be very mysterious to the outside world, but the real top family members know the elder sons of these other families very well. Although these top-notch family elder sons are also called high-achieving students who have returned from studying abroad, Zhiyu knows that most of these are glamorous straw bags. To put it nicely, it is embroidered pillows. To put it ugly, it's that the donkey tea is shiny. Regardless of these big sons, each of them speaks fluent English. At the same time, they understand the world pattern and can talk about and give pointers to the development of the global economy. But if you really let him do it, he may immediately talk to the paper. He goes just blind. Before that, there was a well-known son who was known as a business wizard. He made billions on his own ability in just a few years. But in a blink of an eye, the news of the company's thunder and debt spread. Billions of assets turned into billions of liabilities in an instant. And such people are definitely not an exception in the upper class. Therefore, it is difficult for Zhiyu to believe that her benefactor, her omnipotent benefactor, who is like a god from the sky, will also be the son of a big family. Thinking of this, she couldn't help but fall into deep thought again. After a long time, she said distressedly, Mom, blessed man is not the son of a big family, but he is called the young master. What is his background? Liona smiled and said earnestly, you have to find this benefactor. He has great magical powers and his abilities are no longer what I can imagine, so his identity is definitely not something we can easily guess. Speaking of this, a face suddenly flashed in her mind. It was a very familiar but somewhat strange face. That was the young man she saw at the door of Changying's former residence, who looked exactly like Changying. He looks so much like Changying that she can be sure that he is 100% Changying's son. Thinking of this, Liona couldn't help but wonder, will the benefactor that Zhiyu was looking for is Changying's son? As soon as this idea came out, Liona couldn't help but overturn her own speculation. I saw that young man that day. He was dressed in very ordinary clothes, and he was riding a tattered electric bike. It should be more difficult to come here. It shouldn't be the benefactor Zhiyu has been thinking about. Liona fell into deep thought, and another question came up in her mind. Then, who is the person who grabbed Changying's former residence at the auction with me? Zhiyu saw her mother's expression sometimes dignified, sometimes tangled, and sometimes confused, so she couldn't help asking, Mom, what are you thinking about? Liona came back to her senses and said hurriedly, oh, it's nothing. I just thought about it for a while, but didn't get any clues. After finishing talking, she said to Zhiyu, don't worry too much. Since the benefactor arranged us here and let his subordinates protect us at all times, it is equivalent to establishing indirect contact with us. This is much more optimistic than when you found a needle in a haystack and couldn't find any clues before, so you wait patiently, I believe he will show up sooner or later. Zhiyu nodded, and was about to speak when a flash of inspiration suddenly flashed in her mind. Mom. Do you think this hotel is the property of the benefactor?